Yes. So, good evening, student. So, in my last class, I have covered the topic a recurrence and what are the different methods to solve a recurrence. And briefly, I have discussed the substitution method, iteration method, recursion tree method, and the cookbook method, that is called master method, to solve a recurrence. So now, from this lecture onwards, I shall go into the actual topic of the course. And in my earlier class, I have also told you the different algorithmic principle to design algorithms, like a divide and conquer approach, dynamic programming, greedy approach, branch and bound, backtracking, randomized algorithm, approximations algorithm. So in today's class, I'll start with that brute force approach to design algorithm. And in brute force, quickly I'll be tracing the concept of linear search and selection sort algorithm with their analysis. Then I will move to the divide and conquer principle to design algorithm. And in this technique, I have planned to demonstrate the three different types of algorithm which follows upon this divide and conquer technique. One is square matrix multiplication, and that is also known as Strassen's matrix multiplication. Second one is quick sort, and third one is more sort. But for today's lecture, I shall be just covering this linear search and selection sort algorithm, which relies upon brute force concept. And next, I'll just go through in detail about this Strassen's matrix multiplication, which is based upon this divide and conquer technique. Okay, so let me start with what do you mean by a brute force approach for solving any kind of algorithm, right? So I think this is a most traditional approach, and the approach of we can say the inexperienced people, this brute force approach. Okay, so this approach simply do not follow any kind of style. Simply depend upon the computation power of a computer. Okay, so we don't find out actually any shortcut technique or any tricks to solve any kind of problem using this brute force approach. So rather we just keep on with our normal way, and we just depend upon the computation power of the computer. Okay, so in this brute force approach, actually we try all possibilities, right? We try all possibilities, then we try to execute all possibilities to find our solution, desired solution, right? So this brute force approach, this takes the maximum time to run. Okay, but it is also important to learn this brute force approach, because without learning, unless we learn this brute force approach, we can't know, or we cannot compare the time complexity of algorithm when we will apply other kind of algorithms like divide and conquer, dynamic programming, greedy approach, etc. Right? Okay. So simply remember, in case of this brute force approach, we just rely upon the hardware computation power of a computer system. We do not rely upon any kind of shortcut technique or any kind of strategies, right? So the first application of this brute force approach is a linear search algorithm. Okay, so as we all of us know, that searching means a list will be given to us and a particular item will be also given to us, and our target is to check whether that particular item is present in the list or not. Okay, so this searching, this may result two values, either success or failure. So if that particular item is present in the list, then the searching result will be success, and if that particular item is not present in the list, then the searching result will be failure, right? So now actually what happens in this linear search, so list of items will be there, and the item we want to search for that will be compared with the first element of the list. If they do not match, then we have to compare the item to be searched with the second element of the list. Again, if they do not match, we have to compare the item to be searched with the third element of the list, and so on. Okay, so we have to keep on comparing the item to be searched with all the elements present in the list, starting from, we can say, the index 0 to the last index, or we have to just traverse all the elements present in the list from left to right, and we have to just keep on comparing all the elements with the item to be searched, right? So the algorithm is very simple. So let's say data is the array or the list where all items or all elements are kept, and n is the number of or size of the data array or the list, and let's say item is the item or the element to be searched in this list data, right? So now the algorithm is pretty simple. We have to just process all the element of this data list or the data array. So we'll do one thing. For I equal to 0 to n means I will vary from what, 0, 1, 2, 3 up to, it will vary up to n minus 1. Okay, so this data I, it is going to be either data 0, data 1, data 2, and so on up to data n minus 1, right? So in each iteration, this is going to take different values, starting from the leftmost value to the rightmost value. Okay, so in each iteration I am comparing the data I value with the item, right? So now if that item is equal to data I, then yes, the item is present in the data list at index I, so it is going to return what, I. Okay, so now assume that this particular item is not present in the list data. So what will happen, this particular condition, it will never going to execute, right? So if this is never going to be true, this condition item equal to, so this statement 3 return I, this is never going to execute, right? So item is not present in the list, this condition will be always false, means this will never work, right? It means finally at the end of the loop we have to come to this point, return minus 1. So return minus 1 means the item is not present in the list, or the searching operation is failure 1, right? So now in case of searching, if the item is present in the given list, then the corresponding index at which that particular item is present will be returned, right? So that is return I, and if the item is not present in the given list data, then simply minus 1 will be returned. So minus 1 indicates the item is not present in the list, right? Okay, so now the main bottleneck of this linear search technique is that the algorithm seems very easier, that we are just comparing the item to be searched with all the elements present in the given list, starting from leftmost element to the rightmost element. So the though the algorithm is very simple, but this algorithm may take a huge time if the number of elements present in the list or the data array is very, very high. For example, if we want to search a particular element in a list of 100 integers, right? So for successful searching, we require maximum how many comparisons? 100 comparisons, right? Because there are 100 elements. So it is quite manageable, and time will be also quite lesser. But if my list contain something like 10 power 10 number of elements like that, then we will require how many comparisons? 10 power 10 number of comparisons. So in those cases the linear search algorithm are not useful or are not efficient at all. Okay. So we have some better kind of algorithm like binary search, which relies upon the concept of divide and conquer. So perhaps in my next lecture I shall be discussing that binary search algorithm to make this searching even more efficient, right? Okay, so now I shall go through the time complexity or the running time of this linear search algorithm, right? So running time is very simple. So in the worst case, this worst case running time of linear search occurs when the item we want to search for is not present in the list, or it is present at the last index of the list. So in that case we are bound to make n number of comparison for the searching operation to be completed. So we require n comparison, means the time complexity it will be order of n, right? So the worst case time complexity or the worst case analysis of linear search occurs if the item to be searched is present at the last index of the list, or it is not at all present, right? So now the best case of this linear search algorithm occurs if the item we want to search for is present at the first index. So just after one comparison we will get to know that yes, that item is present in the list. So only one comparison is required if the item to be searched is present at the first index. So the best case time complexity is order of 1, right? And the average case is the item is somehow present in the middle of the list, so it will be order of n by 2, and which is equivalent to order of n, right? So now the next algorithm is selection sort. Again this is based upon that brute force concept, and the selection sort algorithm is very simple. So in selection sort a list will be given to us, and target is to sort them let's say in ascending order, right? So let me take an example first. Suppose we want to sort this list using selection sort. So you just first place all these elements in a list or in an array, right? Then you just select the first position of the array, that is the 0th index. Then try to find the minimum element present in the array, whole array, right? So the minimum element is 1. So just swap that minimum element with the first index or the first position of the array. So 5 will come here and 1 will come here, like this, right? So first iteration is gone, or the first pass is gone. In the second iteration again you just select the second position or the first index. Then you just find the next smallest element. So next smallest is I think it is 2. Okay, so you just swap 2 with 2, so it will be same, so it will be 1 2 3. Okay, so next you go to third position and you next pick the next smallest element, it is 3, so you swap 5 with 3, so it will be like this. Next you select the fourth position, next smallest element is 4, so it will be same, right? Then you just go to the fifth position and pick the next smallest, so I think it is same 5. So next you go to the sixth position, then the element present is 7, then the next smallest element is 6. So, okay, so finally we are getting this. So this is how a selection sort works. So in each iteration you have to pick the smallest element present in the array, right? And you have to swap it with the initial position elements, right? Okay, so now let me go through the algorithm. So in our algorithm, selection sort algorithm, we are just if we are having n number of elements, then we have to go for n number of passes, right? Okay, so in each pass we are selecting the minimum element. Okay, so we are doing that here. Okay, and after doing that we are just swapping, right? So we are swapping that minimum element with ith index element. That I going to vary from 0 to n minus 1, right? Okay, so now if we'll talk about the analysis of the selection sort algorithm. So now in this case, there's in each iteration, so there will be how many iteration? Outer loop, n iteration. Okay, so now for each iteration, this thing will vary. So for I equal to 0, this will be maximum. It will run for n minus 1 time, right? For I equal to 1, it will reduce n minus 2. For I equal to 3, it will be n minus 3, like that. Okay, because after each iteration, somehow our list, unsorted list, it is getting smaller and smaller, right? Because in the first pass you see this is the whole unsorted list. After second pass, this is the unsorted list. After third pass, this is the unsorted list. Okay, so as the value of I will increase, okay, this thing will decrease. So for I equal to 0, it will be n minus 1, then n minus 2. Okay, so total number of comparison will be n minus 1 plus n minus 2 plus n minus 3 up to plus 2 plus 1, right? So after solving this, we will be getting n square minus n by 2, right? So there is a printing mistake, n square by 2 minus n by 2, and that is equal to order of n square, right? So the time complexity, we can say average case time complexity of this selection sort algorithm is order of n square, right? So this is all about our brute force algorithm, right? So in brute force algorithm, we have to just try the all possibilities without applying some special techniques. So we just depend upon the computation power of our computer system in case of brute force algorithm. So now the next approach, algorithm design approach, is divide and conquer approach, right? So as told earlier, in divide and conquer, we take a large problem, then we try to divide that problem into smaller sub problems. Okay, then again we divide our smaller sub problem into even more smaller sub problems. So we just keep on dividing our problem into small sub problem, again small sub problem to even more some smaller sub problems. Okay, so we just keep on doing this process till the final sub problem we are getting, it is fundamental or it is very small to conquer. Okay, so once division phase is completed, we will go for conquer. Conquer means we will go for actual solving phase, right? Solving of a smaller sub problem. So now if we are conquering the individual sub problem, then finally we are going to go for the final solution by combining the solution to all the sub problems, right? So this is all about divide and conquer approach, and this is most widely used because nowadays the kind of problem we are getting, okay, so those are going to be very expensive in terms of time complexity if the input size to the problem is more, right? So this will be very helpful. So we'll just divide our whole problem into small sub problem, like so. The first technique which is based on this, or the first algorithm which is based on this divide and conquer approach, I'll be discussing this matrix multiplication, or better I'll call it multiplication of square matrix, right? Okay, so already we know. So in this case we are assuming square matrix means the number of rows and number of column in the matrix are both equal, right? So already we know in mathematics, if we are doing that matrix multiplication of two matrices, let's say A and B, then we have to just do the multiplication like this. We'll just multiply the row of matrix A with column of matrix B. It's like first row of matrix A will be multiplied with first column of matrix B, first row with second column of matrix B, and so on. And once first row of matrix A is completed, again we'll move to second row of matrix A. Again it will be multiplied with the first column of B, second column of B, and third column of B, and so on. Okay, so this is how we do. So we can just have this formula, Cij equal to Aik into Bkj, where that k varies from 1 to n, right? And this is the most traditional algorithm to multiply to n cross n matrix. You might have studied in programming C course, right? So let's say A and B are two square matrices of order n, means dimension of A is n cross n, and the dimension of B is as well as n cross n. So let's see with the resultant matrix, which will store the multiplication result of A and B, right? And this algorithm you know in your programming C course. Cij equal to Cij plus Aik into Bkj. Okay, so this is how we will perform our multiplication. Okay, so now this thing, it will be evaluated how many times? Nq times. It will be evaluated how many times? Nq times, because we are having nesting of 3 loops. I loop run for n times, j loop run for n times, and k loop also run for n times. So in total it will run for nq times. So you can say in general the time complexity of matrix multiplication algorithm is order of nq. Okay, but here in this case our target is to minimize this time order of nq by applying a new technique which is known as Strassen's matrix multiplication technique. So we can apply that Strassen's matrix multiplication to reduce this time theta of nq. Okay, and that reduction of time will be around theta of n power 2.81. Okay, so we'll see all this derivation, how it is taking order of theta of nq time, and how using that Strassen's multiplication we are getting this value n power 2.1, right? So now first we will see our normal algorithm for matrix multiplication, then we will go for Strassen's matrix multiplication. Okay, so in normal method what we will do, so both A and B are there having size n cross n. Okay, so we will divide this A, matrix A, into 4 submatrices, also this matrix B into 4 submatrices. Okay, so and if the size of this A is n cross n and B is n cross n, then the size of the submatrices will be n by 2 cross n by 2, right? So we are dividing this matrix A into 4 submatrices like A11, A12, A21, A22, B into B11, B12, B21, B22. Let's say C with the multiplication of this A and B. Again, let us divide this C into 4 different submatrices like C11, C12, C21, and C22. So we can write the equation like C equal to A into B. So C11, we are just in place of C, we are writing that 4 submatrices, and similarly for A and B, right? So now, as already told you, matrix multiplication, what do we do? We just multiply the row of first matrix with the column of second matrix. So this C11 will be what? A11 into B11 plus A12 into B21. Similarly, C12 will be what? A11 into B12 plus A12 into B22. So here you can clearly mark. Okay, so this is how we do the multiplication. Okay, So now, okay, so this algorithm actually it is missing. So this is just earlier algorithm like this, okay, and already taught in your programming C course. Okay, so okay, so we'll just see the running time of this algorithm. Okay, so right, so now if we will write the recurrence for the above algorithm, so actually we are getting how many submatrices? We are getting 8 submatrices. For matrix A we are getting 4 submatrices. For matrix B we are getting 4 submatrices. So total we will have what? 8 submatrices. Okay, and to multiply each submatrices we require a time n square. Okay, so the recurrence can be like this: Tn is equal to theta of 1 if n is equal to 1, because if there are two 1 cross 1 element matrix, sorry, like first matrix is only 1, second matrix is only 2, so it will be simply 1 into 2, so that is going to take constant time, right? So if n is equal to 1, then it will take just a constant time theta of 1. And for other cases we have to apply that method. First matrix you make it 4 part, second matrix you make it 4 part, so total how many part? 8 part, and each will have how many size, what size? N by 2, so 8t n by 2, so this is a recurrence. So now we can just apply our master method. So here a equal to 8, b equal to 2, so n power log a base b will be n power log 8 base 2, so it is n cube. So now clearly this n power log a base b, it is asymptotically higher than the value of fn, right? So obviously the time complexity will be theta of n power log a base b, that is theta of n power log 8 base 2, so theta of n cube. Okay, so this was the earlier algorithm which is we are studying since your programming C course, right? So now our target is to minimize this time by applying some better kind of algorithm that is known as Strassen's matrix multiplication. Okay, so these are the steps for Strassen's matrix multiplication. So here same thing we apply. We divide A, B, C. A, B are the input matrix and C is the output matrix. So we divide all the matrices A, B, C into submatrices, and each submatrices will have the order n by 2 cross n by 2. Right. Okay. So now once that is done, and this is same as the earlier case. So now we'll create 10 matrices named S1, S2, S3 up to S10, right? And each of their size is or order is n by 2 cross n by 2. Okay, and all these matrices will require theta of n square time for creation, right? And the formula for S1, S2, S3 up to S10 are like this. Okay, so Strassen's is just making the assumption that from some matrices created in the first step A11, A12, A21, A22, like B11, B12, B21, B22. Okay, so from those value we are just computing that value of S1, S2 up to S10. Okay, so once this step is done, okay, we can go for step 3, and again in step 3 we have to again find we have to find 7 matrices named as P1, P2, P3 up to P7, and again each of their size will be n by 2 cross n by 2, and the value of P1, P2 up to P7 are like this, right? Okay, so now here we are just doing a shuffling kind of thing. We are just taking assumption of S1 to S10 some special matrix, we are taking P1 to P7, and all those values S1 to S10 and P1 to P7, all of them depend upon the value of this input matrix A and B. Actually this input matrix, it is in terms of some matrices like A11, A12, A21, A22, and it is B11, B12, B21, B22, right? Okay. So once these two steps are over, our main target is to find the value of the output matrix C, and this output matrix C, again it contains how many submatrices? 4 submatrices like C11, C12, C21, C22. Okay, so this is the final formula. C11 equal to P5 plus P4 minus P2 plus P6. So you just, it is your assignment, you do one thing, you just substitute the value of P4, P5, P4, P2, P6 and just try to solve, and finally you will be getting this result, earlier result. C11 value was what? This. So after simplification the answer will be this one. Okay. If it is not this, then we have done something wrong. Right. Okay. Okay. So these are the formula to find the 4 elements using this Strassen's matrix multiplication using P1, P2 up to P7. Right. So now let us see the running time of this Strassen's matrix multiplication. So here we are not calculating 8 submatrices, rather we are calculating how many submatrices? 7, P1 to P7. Okay, and each of their size is n by 2. Okay, so recurrence will be like this: 7 into t n by 2, and each of them require n square time for execution. Right. So it will be 7t n by 2 plus theta of n square. Right. So again you just apply master method. So a is here 7, b is 2, and fn is n square. So n power log a base b will be n power log 7 base 2. So you know log 8 base 2 is 3, so it is 7, so it will be slightly lesser than the value 3, and the exact value of log 7 base 2 is 2.1. Right. So this is the time complexity of Strassen's matrix multiplication algorithm. So clearly we have verified that the time required by this Strassen's multiplication is lesser than our traditional multiplication. Hence it is doing better than our traditional matrix multiplication. Okay. So this is all about today's class. So in next class we shall be discussing more algorithms based upon the technique of divide and conquer. Right. Thank you.